Right, Clyde, we're live. You messaged me last week. I purposely have kept this kind of a bit mysterious because I'm not even sure where we're going to go with this. But there's a few things that you kind of wanted to chat about. You were very close to Paul Sykes over the years. Good friend of Delroy Showers. Delroy speaks highly of you. He doesn't trust many. Really likes you. As you know, I'm writing the Michael Showers book at the minute. So enlighten me, Clyde. Can you hear me, mate?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect. So just fire away.
What do you want to talk about?
I thought you purposely wanted to have a chat about something, about a few of the topics that kind of get ranted about YouTube.
Yeah, well, one of the things what I wanted to speak about is somebody brought it to my attention the other day about Sykes and Delroy being padded up together in strange ways.
Yeah.
And because they were both very good chess players, as you know.
Yeah.
And they used to get guys to come in the cell to play chess, to coax them in to play chess. And once they got in the cell, they were raping them.
Yeah.
And this is coming from that guy again up north, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah.
I seriously don't know where he gets all this information from. He's got to be making it up because, like, I've never, ever heard anything about this going off. And I think he's just making big mountains out of molehills now. I think he's running out and things to talk about. So he's just seriously making things up. It's
so if you look at the facts, you'll look at his his most viewed video is something. So you tax the Paul Sykes film because you know yourself that's coming out. You know certain things that probably other people don't know. So it's all, if you look at his most viewed videos, it's them. You know, the story about Lee Duffy is utterly farcical. You know, people keep saying, you know, I wasn't, but I spoke to the prison officer who guarded them apart, and this was about 1998, maybe 88, 89. And then I also spoke with the guy who was there when Sykes was in the Havana, probably about a month before Duffy died. I know why he was brought in to kind of to guard the Spenceleys, if you like. And so that was the two occasions, absolutely 100%. So all these kind of stories of he bottled it in jail, it's completely made up. Yeah. I've got to be very careful because there's a massive investigation which he's probably not aware of. And so I have to remain neutral. I can't be seen to be as bad as him. But it's basically, it's pain for him to drag my name through the mud, to make these stories up. Obviously, he's trying to bring in my demise, but at the same time, it's actually making him a lot of money. You know, I've spoke to so many different people over the years, people who were in prison with Sykes, people like Chris Lambrianou, you know, Eddie Richardson, lots of different people, I suppose, kind of faces, if you like. Alan Lord from the Stranger Ways riots.
I know. I would in Wakefield.
Yeah, if I sat and thought about it enough, I could make, and none of them say anything. Listen, he was gay. Gay for the stay, I think he used to say. And when I went to visit Paul Sykes Jr., he said, listen, if our dad was here now, he'd openly admit it. It's not for everyone's cup of tea. But you know, that's no secret. But as for kind of some of the monstrosities that he's been accused of, there's just no evidence to suggest anything. And I have spoken to some, you know, like the top chief of West Yorkshire Police about 3-4 years, but I couldn't even believe he spoke to me. And he gave me he despised Sykes. And he said, listen, I went and arrested that man when we had half the shift to go get him. And then I arrested him when a gush of wind would have blew him. I said, I've got nothing to lie about. He said, I detested him, but he saw his acro or whatever it is. And none of that was ever suggested. And that's just a fact. That's not my opinion. That's actually a fact. What's your take on it, Clyde?
Jamie, listen, do you know if that happened in prison, there is no way that the cons, Screws, or anybody would let that go on. The cons, they'd have fucking filled him in. It don't matter how big he is. When there's like 20 or 30 people attacking one guy, you've got no chance. You might get a few of them, but you're not going to get all of them. As soon as that came to Screws' attention, they'd have dragged him off at landing. They'd have took him straight down block, and it'd have been put in court for it. There's no truth in it at all. Brian's just scandal. That's all he is. Gossip and scandal. It's shocking what he's doing, and that man is dead. He's been dead years now, and yet he still finds it to slate him. That's because you've done loads of books on Paul, and how many have you done on him? 1, 2,
3. But obviously, you know yourself. I think you've probably seen the contract. So it's been signed to be. So it was signed in the summer of 2017. So what's that? 6 years. Not 10 is suggested. So these things take time. So Warcry Publishing spoke with Western Edge Pictures about a year back, and they said, "Listen, in films, in the industry, this is nothing. It will take a long time." I mean, I think you're more than qualified, Clyde, to have that opinion, because how many prisons did you actually do with Sykes where you were with him? How it was a few, wasn't it?
3. Durham, Armley, and Hull.
Right. I mean, did you ever see him indulge in homosexual activity, or?
No, not once. And like I said on my last podcast with you, like, I've been in showers with Sykes when I was 22 years old. When I just come back from Swinford Hall, I got made into a con because I was 21. But when I was 22, I met Paul in there. I'd known him since I was 16, but it was more or less first time I'd seen him in jail. And we got together, and we used to train together. And I've never seen him do anything to a guy like I was only 22, so I'd have been on his fucking list. You know what I mean? But never. I'd never seen him with YPs. They're on about YPs, shagging YPs. Cons couldn't get on YP's landings. They weren't on the same landings. For him to get hold of a YP, he'd have had to sneak onto landing and close door and do whatever he's got to do. But cons weren't on the same landings, especially in Leeds. Leeds YP wing with D wing. There were no cons on there, it was just YP, so it's a load of crap.
Yeah, but of course it gets views. I mean, I've been in a lot of prisons, and that kind of thing just doesn't happen. I've been in ones in Manchester and Wigan, and it just does not happen. It might do in the films in America, but it's just gone.
Jamie, just let me tell you, it does happen. I was in Wakefield jail, which is a dispersal system jail for and I'd say 75% of them are nonsense. And on there, they used to have a married quarters, and guys used to walk about holding hands with each other. Do you know what I mean? This was in Wakefield, but it was a nonsense, Nick. And they were gays doing life, and they used to get dressed up with they used to make their own frilling knickers and skip down landings and things like that. And they used to walk about holding hands and go and sit in association room holding hands. And many a time you could go in fucking toilet when you were outside on recreation, and you could fucking see them and hear them in toilets messing about with each other. Do you know what I mean? But as far as raping goes, no, I've never known it. in any jail.
I mean, what does it make you feel like, Clyde? I mean, when you hear all these things, people basically making it up for views.
Do you know what? Do you know what gets to me more than anything is like it gets to me when Brian's talking like this. But what gets me more than anything is the people what are believing him. They just believe in his word. They don't know Sykes there. Half of them, well, I'd said 90% of them never knew Brian before he started this YouTube channel. And whatever he says, they tend to believe. But that's up to them. I just think that they ought to go on other channels and listen to other people like who's been on about it, well-known faces from jail who disagree with it as well. Do you know what I mean? That Sykes never raped anybody and things like that.
I mean, one guy who I spoke to several times over the years was the Taylor from the documentary. Do you know Kenny?
Yeah.
And he said
Taylor.
to me, he said, Sykes, you'd always come to my shop. And he said, do you know what, Kenny? In years to come, they're going to write books on me. I mean, what would you thought of all these books and films and forthcoming documentaries?
Well, he wrote his own book, didn't he? So I should imagine that he wouldn't have really been bothered about any other books. You know what I mean? Because he wrote it himself. But he'd have loved the film made about him, and he deserves it as well because he's in, like I mentioned before, he's in the same league as all these McLeans and all these, and he deserves it. And I watched that McLean film, and to be truthful, I thought it was crap, really.
Very poor. I mean, one guy who I did speak with, I spoke to him the other week actually about a different thing, Peter Fury, and he said, "Listen, his exact words were, don't let anyone knock that man." He said people wouldn't have even looked at him sideways.
No chance.
They've got big fat smelly bastards who wear American football tops, just pretending they've still got hair with teeth missing, and just making the best kind of nonsense up. And that's as far as they're going to go in life. This, the Sykes film, the legacy, if you like, whatever the industry, it's got massive legs, and it's a really sad, tragic, harrowing tale about a guy who, I mean, I've said it lots of times, had an education some school teachers couldn't hold a torch to, but then again, at the same time, he was a deeply troubled, disturbed figure.
Do you know what gets me about Brian as well when I look at him, Jamie? I look at him and he says he's had 2,000 fights.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at Brian, right, in fact, let me just put it this way. When I look at Roy Shaw, when I look at Leonard McLean, when I look at Paul Sykes, and when I look at people like Richie Osley, I can see their battle scars. Yeah. I can see their noses like this. Do you know what I mean? That tells me that them guys have had proper fights, proper rows with proper fighting people. When I look at Brian, I don't see that. I don't see his flat nose and his busted jaws and things like this. Do you know what I mean? He might have had a lot of fights, but I'll tell you what, they weren't fights compared to your McLeans and your Sykeses and your Richies and things like that. They weren't them kind of people. I'm sure they weren't, because his face would look a lot different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to name him, but a well-known Hartlepool man told me there was a guy called Sammy Turton, went and put it on him, and he actually ran off. He was there. As I said, I've got to be careful because I can't be as bad as him. The guy's literally having a mental breakdown. And do you know what? I'll say this. If he wasn't so evil, I would actually feel sorry for him. He is actually the closest thing I've ever met to actually real evil. you know, an obsession with my family, to another level, to the point where the police are now looking at it as it's a stalking case, because he's rang my wife's work and all this, and you know, I know what's coming, and I know what's been downloaded, and I know what will be used in evidence. But most people have saw him talking about following my 15-year-old son home from cadets. That's all there to see. He was behind having my windows done twice. You know, he sits talking about my wife every single night. She's just beaten cancer. And even when he was fighting cancer, he sat there talking about a woman. Just let that sink in. So that's what kind of person he is. And it's not going to stop until he's put in front of a court. You know, I mean, you said last week he's literally having a mental breakdown in public. As I said, if it was anyone else, I probably would feel sorry for him.
I don't know what's going off with him. Like, he's definitely going overboard now. Like, I don't watch him. I don't watch him. Like, but I do watch you. Even though I comment now and again, but I do read a lot of people's comments. And Brian just seems to be going over the top now, and I think it does look like a nervous breakdown. But let me tell you something else what I hadn't told you, Jamie. You know, last time we did our podcast,
yeah,
I was walking on field with my son and my dogs, and I got a phone call off of one of Brian's mates asking me why we're talking about Brian, like I were. I goes, well, the only reason why I'm talking about him like I do is because he's talking about my dead pal, and I don't fucking like it because it's all lies. And this guy turned around, you know this guy as well. This guy turned around and said to me, well, I've been through it all the time looking after Duffy and that. I goes, well, you know where I'm coming from, don't you? And he said, yeah. You know what I'm on about.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Yeah. That guy kind of said to me before I even knew that big smelly fucker. He said he tells lies, and I think now it's actually a dementia case. Like, I'm not, you know, jokes aside, that guy has clearly got dementia. He just repeats himself on loop and on loop. You know, I've got a university to go in October. That's booked. But who would want to sit and book him? He just sits using the F word and the C word. And 20 minutes ago, I had a look at him and he's talking about biting someone's nose off. What kind of person does that? Do you know what I mean? Glorifying violence.
He's supposed to be a born-again Christian, innit? and the way he goes off, like, you expect an humble person when they're a born-again Christian, I should imagine. An humble person what talks nice and don't talk bad about people. But Brian, like, he's I don't know. I don't know how to explain him, Jamie. It's just drama in it all the time. It's crazy.
Actually, mind-blowing. Do you know what? There's a saying, Napoleon, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. And I don't watch him, but I'll have a scan now and again. And I have a look, and I think you're just doing it all for me. You even his biggest fans, do you know what I mean? It's like, how you can't defend that kind of behavior, attacking women, talking openly about following minors home, schoolboys, but he's denied it, but it's on tape for everyone to hear. You know,
only thing what you've got to realise, like, Brian is not a villain, you know. Like, he can't be a villain because, like, when he's admitting, when he's saying he's doing something, and then he's saying he's not doing it, he's not covering his tracks at all, is it?
Allegedly, that's what he says.
He's not a villain.
To one of the showers last year, and I said, because that buffoon had me arrested 2 years ago, and then he had me arrested this March. Now, I made sure everyone, people in Newcastle, the faces, I made sure everyone saw my bail sheet, because in that world, you know, you can only be a grass if you're a criminal. If you're Joe Public or like myself, I mean, he says I've got a handler. Why would I have a handler? I'm an author. What do I need to have a handler about? I'm a quiet family man who goes to work, and you know, and you just you can't argue with someone who tells the level of lies he does.
No.
I think he actually passed a lie detector test. He is that delusional. He's gone.
Because he passed a lie detector test because everything he says he believes. Do you know what I mean?
I tell you what, someone, a really, really well-known face said to me, he tells that many lies. It's a cycle. Some of them will come true because he tells that many lies that it's impossible not for some of them to actually come back and be true a little bit. You know, you I suppose, Clyde, were called a professional criminal once upon a time. You wouldn't make police statements, would you? And you wouldn't be seen verbally attacking women and children.
No, like I've been with my missus 38 years, like 39 years, and we have his arguments. And in earlier days, like we did a bit of pushing about each other, but I've never ever hospitalised her, fucking beat her up. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. Like I'm waiting for his stepson to come on.
Yeah, I spoke to him, and he is severely troubled and traumatized. So is his wife Amanda. He literally beat her to a pulp. Used to whip her with dog leads. She took years to get away from him. The man's a complete and utter animal. I know one woman who had to get emigrated to Australia to get away from him. He's a woman abuser. You know, he's literally, the man needs taken off the streets. And I'm just looking forward to. So when paedophiles get put in front of courts, they're basically they're not allowed to go on the internet, and I think that's what will happen to him, because everything he's done, Shirley's downloaded, and it's not the police dealing with this; it's actually the CID. But the reason being, he was arrested in February, and he's still under investigation now. He actually thinks he's going to be allowed to get away with it. You should never underestimate the predictability of stupidity.
No. It looks poorly to me, Brian. Do you know, like when I've watched him, he looks poorly. He's on sprays, and he don't look like his normal self. He looks really drawn, and I don't know. He just don't look right. And what shit what comes out in his gob as well, that makes him worse, really. So I don't know how long he's got left, to be truthful. He don't look healthy at all.
It's my wife and son, but I know how. But then a good friend of mine who's well known, he said, Jamie, he can't even open a bottle of water. I wouldn't look good, and then it would be, oh, I'm an old man, I'm fucked with my back and all this. But you know, everyone is saw him.
He is.
Towards my family.
I think he's poorly, mate.
Sorry?
I think he's poorly. I think he's hurting somewhere. I think there's something wrong with him.
If there was anyone who actually really cared for him around him, then they would actually pull him to one side and say, you were making a total see you next Tuesday yourself. Yeah. But he's got that thing he's married to, and she's as bad as him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so she's actually as evil as him. And, you know, my wife actually helped her and even sent her money when he was torturing her. And I take great satisfaction in the fact that she is never getting away from him. She's stuck with him, and that's what she deserves. That's her karma.
Yeah. I've heard Darren G call her Miss Piggy.
Well, have you noticed? So he keeps saying he threatened to rape my wife 30, 40 times. So if someone had done that once, where's the screenshots? Where's the voice note? Because you couldn't. If I was doing life with no parole, you couldn't go near that thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just the most fugly, most disgusting looking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But yeah, do you know what? She's never getting away from him, and I hope she's with him for the rest of her life. I really do. But do you know what, Clyde? Paul Sykes. It's a story and a half. I think you know the guy, without naming him, who's kind of been spoken of. And he said to me,
I've got a picture of him.
The thing that really appeals to me about playing Sykes is the social justice side of it. Life went full circle. And it will take one hell of a powerful actor, a skillful actor, to portray a role like that, because it just is an unbelievable story.
Don't you think it should have started before 89 though?
It's going to be a comedy, apparently. It's going to be a black comedy. Yeah, I mean, 89. So the film starts September the 11th, 1989. I know it's going to start with the opening scene. Do you know when he gets out of Hull prison and goes, we've got about 30 years left? So that's where the film starts. Yeah. And apparently it's going to end when he dies, 2007.
I think they should have started it a bit earlier. You know, like when he were proper and fit and boxing and that. Yeah. Because like when he got out from there in 1989, how old would he have been? When were he born? 47.
So he got out. So he'd have been 43 then.
43. Like that in his prime, innit?
Yeah. To answer your question, Alexander the Great, the wedding is going to be in the film. I went to the house a couple of years back because the film people said, do you think the people who live there would let us film? So, yeah, you know, Wakefield Lupset as a whole hasn't changed a great deal. But do you know what, when you mentioned the Paul Sykes, Clyde, what's your memories of him? Looking back, how do you remember him? What's his legacy?
Well, I don't like to remember him as a dosser or like that. I like to remember him like when I first met, well, round about the first time I met him when I was 16 and like up to about me being about 30 years old. A tool, a weapon. He actually looked what he was, you know what I mean? And yeah, I miss him for what he were. And like I've always said, like through drink and just being normal, I never had one bit of trouble with Paul. He never ever, and I've been blind drunk with him, and he's never ever argued with me or threatened me or all like that. He's a legend, isn't he? So I say he gets talked about in same class as all these hard men, all lot, and like I'd put him right up there as well, me, with any of them, right at top. And yeah, a lot of people might not agree with that, but
so he was
a fully fit Sykes, no drink, no booze, just as he got out in jail. I put him against anybody.
Yeah,
walking about 18 stone as well.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just the drink; it was the narcotics as well. You know, Paul Jr. told me that. And you know, I was just going to say something to you there. My memory's gone. But yeah, when he was found, so he was found in a bus stop in Normanton, which is just outside Wakefield. And so when he died, he slipped into a coma for 6 days. But one of the last things he said, his sister told me this. He said to his wife, Kath, he said, because obviously everyone said the drink will kill you. And one of the last things he ever said when he was nil by mouth was, it's got me, hasn't it? It's finally got me. So he knew he was dying. You know, Delroy was that upset he couldn't go see him. Yeah, you know, that even, I mean, Neil Malpass got really close friends of him. And I think everyone, even if you met him once, you've always got some kind of memory of him, whether it be good, whether it's bad. You know, I've met so many people over the years, and they've all got a story.
He's a definite. He's a character. He was a character, Paul. Very funny guy. You could have a laugh with him, and like, if Paul liked you, you were his mate, and you weren't just his mate for then. Like, you had a very good memory as well. Like, he'd remember you, like he remembered me. I was only 16 when I met him, and next time I saw him, I was 22, but he remembered me, and had a very good memory. And fucking great bloke to have behind you if you're in bollocks, anyway.
Yeah, I remember. I think that's one of what the police said to me. So I interviewed. There was a couple. I think it's in that book, Final Agony. He said, so I was in the army for 20 years and I was in the police for 30 years or whatever. He said, all the people I met, he said, Sykes stands out because a lot of people will say, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Like that dink pot, just to make telling stories on YouTube. But he said, Sykes, he said, he didn't need to do that. He said, you knew him because you knew who he was. And you didn't need to say, do you know who I am? His kind of name preceded him, if you like.
Yeah. Everybody who knew Sykes were. Every jail I ever were in with him, and like I've told you before, Jamie, I once were in Durham, and this guy run along London and said he's just come in, Paul Sykes, and a few guys just stood up, none, Geordies, just went to the cells and locked the cells behind doors. Like, that's just so they didn't. I don't know whether they got bollocks with Paul, but Sykes were one of them. If he wanted you, if he were going to bang you, he's not bothered if there's a screw there, a chief there, a fucking assistant governor or even governor. You're going to get it, you know what I mean? And they just walked upstairs and went behind the doors. So that says a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you remember him? Of great fondness?
Yeah, I've got no bad to say about him. He was my pal. Kath was my mate. I could go to his house at any time. In fact, when we were having that Down syndrome, his lad.
Yeah. So that was it was one of the last ones. I don't want to mention his name.
No. Anyway, me and Paul were close, and like when his missus, when she was in hospital in labour, he phoned me up. And he asked me if I'd go through because like it was on his own and like she's in hospital and all that. And I went through, and that's the night when he asked me if I wanted a drink, and we drove into town. Paul went up to bouncers outside this nightclub, just whispered something to bouncers, and bouncer went inside and came out with a crate of red stripe and getting him, so he didn't have to go in. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And we just went back.
A lot of people done that. They kind of just give him booze as if to just get away from the premises.
Yeah.
Because obviously, once you let him in the premises, then you've got to get him out.
Especially when he went on dance floor.
I mean, did you see him? Did you see him indulging many acts of violence, Clyde, and your times around him?
Only in jail. I saw him fight a few times. I'll tell you about one what I never told you about last time. Like last time I was on about that Geordie, forgot his name now. Yeah. But we came back from gym one day, me and Sykes, and it was tea time. So we stood at hot plate, and what Paul used to do, he used to say to the servery guys, "Are you going to serve me or shall I serve myself?" So they used to put utensils down. So Sykes, he used to feed himself. And like in them days, there used to be a chief screw. They were a chief. They're assistant governors now. And they used to run all jail with screws and that. And he was stood at end of hot plate. So we're making his way down. And there's a big blonde haired kid at end. from Hull he was. And I mean a big kid, as big as Paul. And he's still got utensil in his hand. So Paul said to him, "You're going to serve me. I don't want to get you in trouble." So kid turned around and said to Sykes, "You'll get same as everybody else." So Sykes, he went, "Okay, you will." We went upstairs, banged up. Next day, we're back in gym. All these white T-shirts coming past. So kitchen lads, they used to wear white. So they're all coming in. So Sykes, he went to me, 2 minutes, Clyde. I knew exactly what was going to happen. And the only thing I heard were bang, just once. So in Leeds at that time, you had to come downstairs to walk through these double doors to get into gym. So Sykes is, after that noise, Sykes has come back in, he's ran straight into Screw's office and got a towel and getting it me, and he said, "Clyde, go and give him that." So I just thought, like, kids laid there, like, fucking bruised up. So anyway, I goes through these doors and I couldn't believe it. The guy's laid on steps with his eyes wide open, and the punch had split him right from top of his head to end of his nose. Now, I'm only a young kid here, so I did panic a little bit. So what I did, because he was Sparko, I thought he was dead, me, because his eyes were wide open and his head was split wide open. I just threw a towel on his head and chipped in. And Sykes, he broke he knocked his knuckle right up into his hand. But that was one I didn't really see it, but I fucking heard it. And the damage what he did with that one punch were unbelievable. Freddie Mills, that one, I told you about Freddie Mills as well.
Tell me about Freddie Mills, but do you think he was mentally ill?
Yeah, no. Like, he had a bad temper. He had a bad temper. He was clever. The guy had a bad temper. You didn't have to, you could say something to Paul and that'd be it. Know what I mean? No, I don't think he was mentally ill. I think there was something wrong with him, but I don't think he was mentally ill. I don't think nowadays, like, did I put him in Broadmoor or Rampton or something? But no, I don't think he was mentally ill. I just think he was a fucking, I don't know. I just think there was something wrong with him, but he weren't really that bad.
Kind of bad to the core. He just had a passion for punching people. I mean, Delroy said, we'd be out. I mean, he doesn't drink, but, we'd be in a nice restaurant. It'd be a lovely evening. Everyone was happy. And then all of a sudden, you just hear bang. And then, he's hit someone. And then the police are coming and ambulances. He just couldn't help himself. I mean, what's the story with Freddie Mills then? Because obviously Fred the Head Mills, so that he was a guy who had several run-ins with Sykes. He's no longer here, but he was a
Listen,
guy.
I've heard all these. I've heard people saying that they've heard the Fred beat Sykes, but he didn't. I've seen it. This is a good story. This I might have told it before, but it's a good story. I was in Canteen Queue, and Freddie Mills is coming down because they're obviously on different landings. Freddie's coming down one landing, Sykes is coming down other, and every time they met, they had a brawl. And a lot of times it was Freddie what kicked it off, because Freddie in his own right, like, could have a row. So they'd met, bump it, so Sykes had battered him. So there's a big fat PO. I'm stood in Canteen Queue. There's a big fat PO stood there. And he's walked straight up to Paul and he says, "Paul, you know where you've got to go, don't you?" Which he meant down block. So he goes, "Yes, but I want pain first." So Sykes is come in front of me. So we're having a little fucking chat and that. So he gets into kiosk part where the pay you. So Screw has said to Paul, what's your name? And Sykes goes, you know my fucking name, just pay me. So he's gone down this sheet of paper and he's seen that Sykes here had already been paid. So he said to PO, he's already been paid. So PO went, well, fucking pay him again then. Paid him again, just so there were no hassle, so he could walk down to choke you. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, what was the radio
I'll tell you
story?
another story. Let me tell you this one, because I've never even told you this one, but they do come back to me. Anybody what's listening to this now will know in Leeds, I think it was Sea Wing, there were a spiral stairs. And Sykes's cell were bang outside of these spiral stairs, but cons aren't allowed to walk up them. Only screws and red bands who are trustees. So Sykes is coming back with his dinner, so he walks up these spiral stairs. And Screw shouted, "Oi, Sykes, who said you can walk up them fucking stairs?" He went, "Them bastards." Pointed to his biceps and just went in his cell and banged his door.
I mean, the radio story, what was that again?
Fucking Sykes, right? I never heard him have a radio. And even if he were padded up with somebody and they had a radio, he didn't mind. But he used to listen to Radio 5. You know, fucking Parliament things and things like that. So this particular night, somebody's got the radio on up on 4s. Sykes is on 3s, but it's definitely on his side. So he's shouting out the window, "Turn fucking radio off." So they start slating him out the window, which they used to, you know what I mean? Because he's not going to know who it is. So Sykes, next morning, has gone upstairs and broke every single radio on landing, every single one, smashed it. And not only that, that day, he went down at gym and come back with a basketball and bounced it on his fucking wall all night to keep everybody awake. Even me.
Yeah. I mean, what did you make of his book, Clyde? Sweet Agony. So that book is written from March 77 to June turns 79 when he fights Gardner. So it's all done. In fact, I sent Kel Brookett the other day, the Sheffield boxer. Kel has started getting into the Sykes stories. I read it after I watched a documentary over 10 years ago. And I was a bit disappointed because I wanted to know what happened to him. Then I walked into the story and kind of written all the books. But after the second time I read it, Paul's sister sent me it in 2015, and I appreciated it for what it was. It is a fantastic piece of work, isn't it?
Well, I'll be truthful with you, Jamie. I've read it, but it was a long time ago, and I can't fucking remember. I can't remember any of them, to be truthful. I know some antics he got up to, like, obviously, but I can't really remember them because my memory is not that clever anymore. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but he won a Costler Award for that, didn't he?
Yeah, well, you've got to be in prison to win that.
Yeah. I think Bronson's won it as well.
Bronson's won it. I think it's 15 quid, which was, you know, I mean, that Dinkpot said the book was out in 70s. So that book was really, so written in 88, and it was released in 1990. So, you know, and he's saying, oh, Sykes fought as a pro 91. Sykes's last fight ever was before I was born, March 1980. So
was that against the Nigerian?
Yeah, and it was the only fight on the show. I spoke to someone who was going to go. He didn't, but he said basically Paul just looked out in the first round, looked at the crowd, give this kind of weird sneer, and then got half a clip and just laid on the floor and took his money and then went home. Yeah. But I mean, I'm going to give you the last word, Clyde. So certain people are making stories up to get views. Controversial, they're sinister, and they're complete utter bullshit. But people with half a brain know what they are. But it's making this full money, and it's not ever going to stop. I mean, what he was slating the Showers brothers the other day. I really have a good man to let them know. I know you said we should tell them because their family is absolutely huge, and they'd be furious.
I talked to Delroy, but like we talked about it over there, and like he's getting on now. I think he should just go over his head now. He's not fucking bothered about it. He won't. He's chilled, isn't it?
Yeah, he's but you know, that's normal people that age don't behave like that. You know, I've a few people have said, well, you should let him know. But yeah, it's you just don't say them kind of things about people on the internet in front of everyone.
It's crazy. It's like I said, I think there's something wrong with Brian. He wants to start chilling out now because he's not a spring chicken. And even he's had his windows and his car burnt out and his windows put through. But that won't bother Brian, you know. Do you know having his windows put through? He could be sat in the living room and then bricks could be coming through windows. It's a frighten his missus and whoever else is there. But that won't frighten Brian having his windows put through. Do you know what I mean?
I personally think they did it themselves for views. Just my opinion.
Seriously?
That it's not normal how someone has an obsession. I've never seen anything as bad as that obsession in my entire life.
I am, Jamie.
No, never. It's almost Roll level now.
Yeah.
But do you know what?
That comment there, the Brian once had lasted 2 minutes against a prime Sykes. Trust me, that kid's Monty's truth. Trust me, he knows script. He won. Good 18 stone Paul Sykes against Brian, and he can be 24 stone. You get battered.
Yeah. I know.
Hey, I told you, my pal came from Chapeltown from Leeds, and we got talking about Sykes. I ain't seen him for a few years, and we've been friends since '87. We met in Lindholme, Nick, and we've kept in contact all this time. And I got talking about Sykes, and he mentioned Lee Duffy, and he knew both of them. Because Sykes, I think Sykes once had a fight outside Gatey Pub with about 15 black kids. And he mentioned Sykes and Duffy. So I put him on spot. I went, who would you rather fight, Duffy or Sykes? That's what I said to him. And he said, Duffy, he'd rather fight. So that's another story.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say this. So I've been dismissed from 3 pre-disclosures, not court cases. I've put the 3 court documents up. They're all for there to see. I've never been sued, never going to be. The day I was dismissed, he's on a live saying, we've won our court case. That's on my son's life. And I'm just looking, thinking, wow, you just cannot cope with that level of lies. But, you know.
When's it all coming to an end, this, Jamie?
It will when the police make him. But I think then, I don't think he will. And I think he'll be arrested a couple of times because he won't stop. And what I want is an injunction. You know, and I think that's what I'll get. And I think he'll get an internet ban because, you know, it's just you can't say them kind of threatening people. Do you know what I mean?
You can't. That's where I go back to see. That's where I go back to saying, like, he threatens people online. That's not villainy. When you're going to do something, you don't tell people that you're going to do it, do you? But he's letting the world know. So as soon as something happens to you, they're going to knock his door down and take him. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, one of his mates on his live said he's putting 4 or 5 in me and don't even wear a bulletproof vest. He was arrested the next day. So I was given an Osmond warning. Basically, I had 2 plainclothes detectives coming to my house in March and saying, we have reason to believe there's a serious threat to your life. So they are, they are watching everything he's doing, and he doesn't realise, but he will in the end. And I think he'll never stop until he's been put in front of a court. I'm not going to his level. Do you know what I mean? He would want me to go back and forth, because that guy's going nowhere in life. And that's like I'm in London in about 6 weeks, and I'll be with actors, and he'll be sitting talking about me on a live. That will never stop until he's put in front of a court, and that's the plan.
Yeah. Sad. He don't like see you doing well, Jamie. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's amazing to think, like, I mean, I rarely ever, I done one bad reaction video when I was drunk, and he just had my windows put through. I know who done that. There was a woman very close to him, and there was 2, and I know who they were. And that's all I'll say on that. And he was behind the second time as well. But yeah, he's going nowhere. He's going nowhere in life fast. And I plan on doing 100 books. I've got 4 finished. So the reason I haven't had any out lately is because the authorities are looking into it. Then he needs silencing because he'll just sabotage the new things. So the Raymond book, the Nick Manners book, the Junior Witter book, the Michael Showers book, I've put them all on ice. They're finished, but they won't be out until he's put in front of a court. That's the plan. See, I'm going to be doing Mickey Duff, Brian Clough. I'm kind of toying with the idea of doing something on Brendan Ingle as well. Clyde, did you know him?
Yeah, I've met Brendan a couple of times, but I'll tell you one, and I've mentioned it to you before, Jamie. Steve Baxendale, who used to own Niche Nightclub. That'd be a good one. Everybody in country knows him. I've told you about it, Anna.
Yeah,
his brother.
You know what? I tell you what, I'm going to be in Sheffield in the next couple of months. So I'm going to be doing some Junior Witter in the Winkerbank gym. So I'll give you. Do you know what? We'll have a sit down, mate, and you can tell me that full story. I did Google him. He sounds interesting. And they're always the best. The ones that no one's really done a great deal on, because then you're kind of discovering them, if you like.
Yeah.
Clyde, someone's asking about your book then. So how's it doing?
I ain't got a clue. That's down at Brenton. It's done all right, I suppose.
So you've worked with War Cry Publishing. Are we as bad as the same? Because Alan Thompson liked us, Bob and Dave liked us, Gary
I've had no problems with War Cry.
He liked us, Mick liked us.
Jamie, I like you. We like Brenton. He's crackers, Brenton, but I like him. I hate his dogs because they're farting all the time. But yeah. But yeah, I've had no hassle with War Cry. Brilliant.
Jailhawk. I'm going to put the link in the bio. My wife said earlier, I like Clyde. He's an interesting fella. You're someone who you should be at your age. You're sensible. You can tell you've been about, but you don't act like a dick, and you don't dress like a paper boy who wears American football tops. But you know what, Clyde? It's always been a pleasure, mate. And anyone who fancies getting on Clyde's book, Jailhawk, I'm going to put the link in the bio after this. Clyde, it's always been a pleasure, sir.
All right. Top man, Jamie. See you soon.
Ta-ra, mate.
Ta-ra, everybody. Bye.